world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Rep your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
It's really cool.
Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Rugby podcast, your one-stop shop for all things French rugby. The top 14, Pro de National, French national team, the Champions Cup, Challenge Cup, the French club's involvement in that, towns, cities, bars, restaurants, fans, everything else in between, everything that makes the French game, the game that we know and love. And this is Rob. This is not Richard. It is me on my own for now. We are going to be dialing in Richard from his holiday in Italy in a moment or so, just to kind of run through, well, what do we got coming up on this episode? So we're going to run through the top 14 action from round 20, and a fantastic round it was. We're then going to tee up the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup, which is coming up this weekend, over the Easter weekend, one of my favourite weekends, or my two favourite weekends of the rugby calendar. And then we'll kind of run through a little bit of a debrief on, or kind of maybe some tips for people in anyone going out there to travel, and if you've got any, how to get in touch with us as well for any tips on that. And then I will dive into a bit of Pro de Deux. Unfortunately, very light on the petit fours and digestifs this week, but we do have some trip recommendations in there, so it's not just all rugby so far. But let's get into this. Without further ado, I will be joined by my fellow Rosbeef, Richard. Here we go. Okay, and we are now joined by Richard. Richard, how are you? Where are you? Who are you? Give us all of the details.
Yeah, the last question there is a particularly poignant one. I am in Italy, northern Italy. We've got a week, or just under a week, bopping around a few places. We're currently in Desenzano, which is kind of on the south point of Lake Garda. It's very nice, very pretty. I think we've kind of missed the tourist rush, which is probably no bad thing. I think next weekend it might be a little bit spicy, but it's beautiful. And the local weekly market is setting up outside our hotel room kind of as we speak. So dialing in for these things is never easy in the morning, but it's slightly easier when you've got bits of scaffolding smashing around your hotel room from 5 a.m. So looking forward to tucking into that and seeing if there's any good local fare very shortly.
Where else are you going? Where have you flown into?
So we flew into Verona.
Around? Okay, yeah.
A little bit. So flew into Verona. So we've got 3 days around here. Kind of bopping around the lake, gonna grab some bikes, I think. Possibly try and visit a little vineyard or two. And then we're going to, so we've got a day in Verona on Thursday, and then we are basing ourselves in Treviso for the end of the week. So we're actually flying out of Treviso Airport rather than Venice on Sunday, and sneaking in a little bit of rugby.
You are going to Benetton. Who are Benetton playing?
Benetton are playing Cardiff.
Oh,
So yeah, looking forward to joining a few of the lads from Barry down at Benetton. I think it's 6:30 kickoff on Saturday, which is quite a nice civilized
Ideal,
time.
yeah.
And
Are
yeah, going to
spreads and
try and get
scrums
to.
going or not?
I don't think so. No, I have asked for a few recommendations. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's the home of tiramisu, which I absolutely love.
No way.
With a tiramisu. So TBC whether I can go through 6 in 6 days. But we're off to a good start.
I'll be like me on your stag do in Lisbon with the pastel donatas. I'd be equally
35 pastel
bad.
donatas.
I'd be equally bad for tiramisu. Anyway, right, let's get into it because we are very grateful to have you dialing in from your holiday. You have
Pleasure's
caught a
mine.
decent amount of top 14 action, and it was another cracking weekend, really. It was some good games this weekend, I'd say. Where do you want to start? What was pick your favourite from the weekend?
Was the absolutely wild 10 minutes at the back end of the Stade Francais Clermont game. 5 tries in 9 minutes or whatever it was.
Absolute
was
madness.
pretty remarkable. Yeah, it was. I'm wearing my pink jumper in homage, including, and I'd always make it about him anyway, but including a lovely little hidden kind of round the back line from Sekou Makalu, who then rounds the fullback. The showing all the athleticism and sneakiness of a prime French spy, which was very impressive.
Did you see early on in the game? He was on the bench and he got caught on camera and he looked at the camera and then had this pink towel over his head and fully concealed his face. I was like, oh, that is Spy 101. That 00 Sekou.
00 Sekou is flying. So that was certainly a moment of the weekend I enjoyed. And the second actually was there's some really good scenes, the Bordeaux players in front of the travelling fans at Stade Yolande after they were the only away win, weren't they? I think this weekend.
Yes.
And yeah, I think just as much as anything, it probably showed how far, in a strange way, that Lyon have come in the last sort of 2 months. That you obviously see people supporting with their travelling support as they should do, but yeah, clearly meant a lot to Bordeaux that win, that performance going into the Champions Cup. So I thought that was quite cool, and what was quite a tight game as well.
There's a lot of clubs have them. There's a pretty good vocal course away support for UBB. They've definitely, whenever I've seen them away from home, they've had a decent group, a decent pocket, a bit like the kind of you see the cast fans that take over like a tiny little section of a stand. UBB do that pretty well. I think that's for me, that's one of the big stories coming out the weekend. So the way it ended up is we now have 3 teams locked on 59 points, with Pau, Bordeaux, and Stade Francais all joint on 59 points. Pau are ahead I presume, on number of wins. And then Montpellier are 2 behind on 57 points in 5th, having been second at the weekend. So they came out of that pointless away at Toulouse. They did deny Toulouse a losing bonus point. An attacking bonus point. So only the second side to do that this season at the Stade Ernest Vallon. But you've got, Clermont are 5 behind Montpellier now after a couple of key losses, I'd say, to lose to Montpellier and then to lose to Stade Francais away. Yes, not particularly key, but to concede that
the
many.
manner.
Yeah, more to offer up the attacking bonus to Stade, because that wasn't always guaranteed, and then they obviously fully let rip in that 10 minutes, which very much secured the attacking bonus point. I'd say Clermont are probably out the race now, 7 points off second. They're probably out the race for second, but they're only 2 ahead of Racing. But the fight for second place and the home barrage, one of those 4 sides, Pau, Stade Francais, Bordeaux, and Montpellier is going to end up in an away barrage, which I think is going to be quite a big thing because of, well, certainly for Pau, they've got an unbeaten home record still, and then when you've got, I don't know, I say Bordeaux can we've seen that they can pick up big wins away from home, but I think they won't want to travel. Like, I think at that point, I think at that point, it's like there's a fatigue element to travel probably in the barrage.
Yeah, very possibly. I think you're right in the sense of Bordeaux are probably, as much as they haven't consistently been kind of thrilling away from home, they're probably the side that be most nonplussed about having to go, or less reliant on their kind of home support. Montpellier are an interesting one, aren't they? I think I had them down as sliding out slightly of the barrage places a couple of weeks ago, based mainly on their fixture list. But okay, they conceded 45, but it was not without some impressive elements, their performance at Toulouse. I think you sent it to me, they made pretty much, did they change their entire first 15 from the previous week?
14 changes from the previous week.
Including Tom Banks, but sadly will not play every minute of the top 14 season.
There is one player. There is one player in the top 14 I'm aware of that's played. There may be more, but there is someone that's played in every game this season, including 4 European games. Do you know who it is? God. Not at Montpellier, at Bordeaux.
No, at Bordeaux. Poirot?
No, it's Parlou.
Oh, has he really
played in every single game? Yeah,
he's been good as well, hasn't he?
He has been good. Yeah.
But I think the thing more than the rotation was looking at that rotated 14, 15. I was like, oh my God, there's some pretty useful players knocking around in there.
Yeah.
Like genuine depth that I guess, we sort of knew about, but when you actually see it in that stark contrast, like, Masabaka for Vunapola and
Leo
Chalareau for Collie Chalareau for like either of the second rows and stuff like that.
Beard, who was like their main man early on in the season.
Yeah, completely.
And also, Arthur Vincent was
back in business.
And a debut for Banks was missing, but debut for John Echegaray, on loan from Bordeaux, presumably to get some game time. I would say, like, Montpellier.
Is he on loan?
I'm pretty sure he's on loan. I'm pretty sure they weren't getting rid of him. Although they do have Jean Musquet, so who knows? But at one point, it looked like Toulouse were just those 14 changes were just gonna basically gifted Toulouse the attacking bonus point, because some of the tackling and Montpellier's defense has been very good this season. I think they are statistically the second best in the league behind Toulouse. But some of the tackling in that first half was dross. It was weak, and it looked like we were going to get
stuff.
We looked like we were going to get the full Thomas Ramos show, which we did a little bit. Paul Grau is just, maybe he's a flat track bully, but my God, when he is like some of these teams that rock up to Stade Valon that are just getting ripped apart by Paul Grau, he looks like a world-class player. Admittedly, only really at home against. Yeah, maybe that's the key in the Paul Grau complex. But he looks so good so often. And Toulouse then, I don't really know how Montpellier got back into it, but I think there's an element of an arrogance to Toulouse, I think, that's shooting themselves in the foot, and I just don't think I think coming out of this weekend, I felt, given the way that Bordeaux have picked up a couple of big wins in the last couple of weeks, they have now done Toulouse in a 1-to-1 last year in the Champions Cup. I wonder if I kind of got the sense that maybe Bordeaux, they still might not finish second, but are they getting closer to becoming favourites to take the title? I think Toulouse are probably still the favourites, but I can see, or from what I've seen in 2026 from Toulouse, probably the back end of 2025 as well, with the loss to Glasgow, if I've got that in the right order. But the losses to Glasgow and Saracens, I can see more teams beating them in a one-off semi-final than I have in the past, than I have in recent seasons. Like, I could definitely see a Montpellier, a Stade Francais, hopefully, if it comes to it, Pau beating them in a one-off game. Whereas before, I probably felt that was only really Bordeaux when it comes to knockouts.
Yeah.
We'll come on to Champions Cup in a bit, but
I think there's probably a little bit of like, have we still seen the best of Toulouse when it's mattered, if that makes sense. I guess the Champions Cup, it's interesting, isn't it? Like the way that those two fixtures went, albeit both in, and it's not necessarily an excuse, but it's perhaps a reason, both in kind of dreadful conditions for the sort of rugby that Toulouse like to play. And you've mentioned a couple of sides there that probably could trouble them. I'm tended to agree, and a lot of that is, I think, because they don't quite. Okay, their forwards are perhaps superior in their ability to ball play and to connect and carry, but the set piece is not as far ahead of other teams as the rest of their game is. And you mentioned the Glasgow, you mentioned Stade Francais Montpellier. They are the sort of packs. We saw Bordeaux get on top of them, albeit a slightly changed up starting eight in the game at the Atlantique a couple of weeks ago. But ultimately, if that is the case, it makes for a far more exciting end to the season, both in the league and the Champions Cup, because there are points, going back a couple of months where it felt like a kind of done thing from 3 months out, and that might still be the case. But I tend to agree. They look maybe a little bit more human in recent weeks.
Yeah, the team, so the team currently in second, and they have meant that Racing stay outside the top six, but only by 2 points in what was a bizarre finish to a game. My boys, Section Palois, Po winning 27-17 at home to Racing 92 to retain their unbeaten home record. That game, they were 17-3 down. I know, like, there are big comebacks now, but they were like 17-3 down after like 55 minutes. It was just, it was a bizarre game and a bizarre finish.
I turned this on when I got home, and it was 78 minutes, and Po were on the halfway line, 17-13 down. And we had my 2 little nieces staying with us. So I basically checked the score. That was it. Flipped back on about 20 minutes later, and Racing didn't have a bonus point. I was like, what happened in the 80 seconds since I was last looking at that? Remarkable. Did you watch the whole thing?
I have since watched the whole thing, but I turned it on in the pub on my phone from about 50 minutes when it was 17-3 down. It was I was quite nervous ahead of this game, just generally. I feel like Racing can be just a bit of a bogey team for Po, and for no real reason. It's not like a genuine. It's a genuine bogey team. There's no kind of matchup that makes them obviously weaker. And it was a full noise Po team. It was as strong as, like, that was when I saw that team sheet. I was like, that is what I would want. We then obviously lost. I was checking the score and I saw Axel Desperez kicking a goal early in the first half, and I was like, oh no, what has happened? I think Joe Simmons was pulled out as a precaution, is what I've seen, ahead of kickoff. So that's rather, my initial thought was like, oh my God, has he like gone off early? That's not good. And then when I saw he didn't start, I was like, well, that's also not good. But I think it's just a precaution. Not that changes the dynamic. You could argue that Axel Desperez is the man in form and has certainly got more rugby under his belt and actually had a pretty good game. But other than that, it's, the balance of the back row is what I would want. It's the first choice lock pairing. It's the props seem to be doing pretty well. Like Kalashvili seems to be playing really, really well, and Papidza had a good week the week before. The back line, Brobery's there, Atisogbe's there, who is not playing his best rugby by any stretch. He did limp off in this, and I think it was actually the other knee to the one that he's injured, but he didn't have his best game at all. Couple of like the first try is just, I don't know. Yeah, he just seems to maybe he's got the tap back in his head now. Just like, go back to catching the ball, man. Like, you were really good at it. There's no need for him to do that tap back. But yeah, I think he could do with a little bit of a break, to be honest, which I assume he will get in the challenge in the first round of the Challenge Cup, whether they progress. I don't think Zebrev want to. We'll come on to that. Yeah, and Po proceeded to play quite badly generally for 80% of this game, 70 minutes of this game. But some minerals and just getting over the line, like they got the territory. They put Racing under pressure. They got penalties at the scrum. Ooredoo was a lot of the good players didn't have good games, but my God, Ooredoo was excellent again. It's just such a good, like, he does so much. He won so much line-out ball on Racing throws as well. And then so this kind of score a couple of rumble over tries. Eventually, they score after a period of pressure. And then the kick goes over with about 10 seconds to go. So Racing try the short kick off, which Aaron Grandidier flies into and then charges down the wing. What do you think about the back of the forward pass? Is it a forward pass? That's a proper that's a forward pass. That's a proper the forward pass doesn't count in French rugby until it does. But that is not a forward pass. It goes backwards out of his hands by quite some way. It just also travels forward about 10 meters to guide on.
I don't know what the forward pass is anymore. I think it is forward. It looks forward. If it's gone 10 meters forward.
Backwards out the hand. It's a proper good, ugly win. We didn't play our best, got the result, kept the home unbeaten record, kept in the top 2. They can be happy with it on that basis, but Po have not been playing. It's a bit of a get out of jail. Po have not been playing good rugby recently. They've not been playing to the best of their ability in the last couple of months, really. Hopefully the break is a bit of a reset. And I think that makes it quite intriguing because Bordeaux and Stade Francais have found their best rugby coming into this, and arguably Montpellier are as well. So they need to kind of buck up their ideas, because I'd say that Bordeaux and Stade Francais are the coming teams, as it were.
Yeah, I'll disagree with any of that.
Elsewhere, Bayonne v La Rochelle, Anoeta looked class. Cards. Have you seen any of this game?
No, I've seen a couple of the highlights, but I sort of followed a little bit of it on Saturday night and saw that. I mean, it sounds like a pretty impressive win for Bayonne in the end, given their first half. Was it 2 yellows and a red?
6 cards in the whole game, which is a lot.
It's good, decent going, that.
Yeah, Clermont were down to 13 at one point. Nice concurrent yellows for them.
Good.
Bayonne 2 yellows and a red in the first half, and they were 10-3 down at half time, but a couple of decent tries. The end, Mangala makes such a big difference. Tom Spring was playing 10. German was kicking. I don't know why Segons wasn't playing. I mean, they weren't. I don't think Bayonne were fantastic by any stretch, but just the penalty count and discipline, kind of cost both teams, and they end up getting the result for Bayonne, which is a good result. It kind of scuppers. It might be the one that got away for La Rochelle a little bit. But yeah, decent result for Bayonne. And it looked cool. It looked really cool, the Anoeta.
Yeah, it always does. I'd like to go. I'm jealous of your trip last year. It just puts a little bit of a pin in that La Rochelle resurgence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is frustrating for them. Saw that Will Skelton's now out for the rest of the season.
Ruptured Achilles or something.
God, they're I know we've said it a million times, but their injuries this year has been something else. It's all the big men.
Bayonne
pretty brutal for them.
Bayonne now are only 7 points off 6th, which feels mad. I guess they beat Montauban last week. Your boys cast, Rich, 5 points off the playoffs after an expected win against Montauban.
Yeah, not a huge amount to say for that. I think it was, even then, they were 28-0 up in no time, and probably weren't quite as ruthless as they could be. Perhaps the most notable thing in this game was actually 2 tries including one lovely finish from Killian Ringet, who I think we've kind of glossed over talking about Montauban too much in the last few months, because it's been a little bit of a kind of shame as to their performances or lack thereof, unfortunately. But Ringet was brilliant last year, started the season well, and is off to cast next season.
Yeah.
Nice little flavour of what's to come. Good to see him doing well.
And then the other team, or the other game. So talking of Montauban are done now. They are now 16 points behind Perpignan after Perpignan beat Toulon. Toulon, had Lyon won, Toulon would be in 12th, which is bad. And even if they are only 1 point ahead of Lyon, and their points difference is astronomically bad. Lyon have despite being in 12th, have a positive points difference. I don't know how that's happened. But Toulon are on minus 106. So when you compare
Didn't
that to
realise.
plus 19, that's if they do end up level on points, that's a big thing for them. Toulon, they did send a rotated side, but
Yeah,
they're
they
just
they
not.
didn't. I thought their team selection was a bit odd because there was some rotation, but it was a little bit in and out. It was kind of like they had some big names on the bench. They still had a few of their kind of main guys starting. It didn't feel, and maybe it's like a kind of confirmation after the result, but it didn't feel really like either targeting this week in the league or next week in the Champions Cup. It kind of
Yeah.
seemed to sit somewhere between those. Yeah, maybe that's fair enough. They wanted to get a little bit of game time whilst being competitive at Perpignan, and it was relatively tight until the very end, wasn't it? I think it was Perpignan breakaway last play of the game to stretch the score out a bit. It was still within a score about 75 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's frustrating one if you're a Toulon fan. I would
Couple of lads returning though. Antoine Frisch at 12 and Matthias
Yeah.
Halangahu. Both Halangahu hasn't played since like round 2 or something. So a guy that played for France last summer. So that's a big boon. I mean, their second row stocks, bearing in mind they've been playing all of them there. Just if you've got Halangahu as your fourth choice lock is just a bit of a piss take. And yeah, nice to see. We're big fans of Frisch. Mr. 8 out of 10, Mr. 7.5 out of 10. That leads us on to the Champions Cup. So, Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. Champions Cup, we have 4 French teams in it, 3 of which are at home. And the Challenge Cup, I think we have a similar amount. But let's focus on the Champions Cup. 2 of the French teams are playing each other. We have 5 teams in the Challenge Cup, but 2 of them are playing each other in Montpellier v Perpignan, who will also be playing each other in a couple of weeks in Derby weekend.
Not been played, that one, at the Raoul Barrier, the home and away venue of choice for those two guys.
Right. So we normally in the Champions Cup will the French teams turn up? I'm thinking it's slightly different this year or this round. Will the teams playing in France turn up? And I don't think they will.
No.
I think Bristol might, but Leicester, when they were talking, they put a strong side out against Gloucester, and they were talking about how the likes of these guys that were playing like Chesham and Stewart, and
they may have to rest some of them.
Yeah, exactly. So they're gonna they're not going to be playing the next week, are they? Because even you could put a strong, I don't know, they could put a full noise team out and beat Bordeaux, and then they have a quarter final. But I just hate it. I hate it that they're just throwing in the towel like that.
Yeah, it's such a shame, isn't it? It also comes from a point like I totally get it, but equally, who's going to remember the away win at Gloucester in however many years' time? Like, go to Bordeaux and give it a crack. Like, teams have won at Bordeaux this year, right?
Maybe for some people, like the Ed Slater Cup, it's
perhaps
at Villa Park and stuff. Maybe that's more important for people, but traveling fans, the people that like invest a lot of money, it's it's a bit of I don't think they'll go that strong. Go on.
It's the fact it's the knockouts, I think, that does frustrate me. It's 4 months in the planning. There's been no domestic rugby in England basically for a period of like 2 months.
Mate, we won the Prem Cup. We've been banging out sides. But
I don't know. It's one of those situations. I totally understand it. I just think it's a shame. You are a Leicester fan, Rob. I think I would, be a bit miffed, but there we
go. I think the thing for that is that a full noise Leicester team are exactly the sort of team that could cause problems for Bordeaux, 100%. Like more than. But I also think a full noise Bristol team could cause Toulouse some real problems. So I hope. I don't know what Bristol will be like, But I think Bristol could cause Toulouse some problems. I don't know whether Stormers are going to go full noise for their trip away to Toulon. They've been going pretty well. I did see that the South African sides have been unbeaten in the last couple of rounds. It's like, well, when you're playing shite teams in South Africa, maybe that's the reason rather than South African teams doing pretty well. But yeah, I don't know whether Stormers will. They haven't in the past, but they've been pretty good in this tournament. They were quite good in the group stage. So hopefully they will.
Because that could be, notwithstanding Toulon's form, you would hope they would, Toulon might get a bit of a kick out of the fact that, look, we could have been in the semi-finals final of this tournament this year. We're still a really good side. This is our tournament. That against a full noise Stormers team could arguably be the kind of pick of the round, I'd say. They've
got the pack to match up with a South African side, any South African side, and yeah, they just haven't got their act together. Like, in their game plan isn't working, their attack isn't working. But I still maintain that if Bordeaux, if Toulon put their full strength pack out, I think that's the best pack in France. So in terms of all court game, So hopefully they find some form. I think they're all fit. I think Toulon. You never know. Well, will Toulon turn up? Like, which Toulon are going to turn up? Are we actually going to see? It's been quite a while now since we saw them play to their full potential. Arguably not since the Champions Cup group stage games. Have they done that? Have they shown anything of like their best form? But hopefully they will. Yeah, I think Saran's injured, isn't he, for a bit?
Yes, yeah, I think he is.
Not that having Ben White is a bad option. On Toulouse, I think full noise Bristol could have a chance because, like we've seen with a lot of French sides recently, I feel like Ellis Genge is a trump card for Bristol, and hopefully he plays rather than getting rested. But he can chew up the Toulouse pack. The scrum can be a little bit weak. Whether it's Aldeghiri, Merkel has been playing pretty well, to be fair. I think they've also got like their midfield. I think Toulouse's midfield is a little bit. I don't know what their best midfield is. I don't know if you've got any views on that, but I just think they don't know what their best centre combo is, and I don't think that's helping them defensively. I don't think their defence is quite as tight as it has been, and
we've got a lot of guys. Feels like their best centres. Their best centres are all best at 13. It feels. Gore, Barassi,
Chocobarras. Chocobarras is best at 12. I think Chocobarras should be their starting 12. I think I would go Chocobarras and probably Barassi or Gorge.
Possibly.
Next year will be Chocobarras and
Menoncello, which is useful.
Your boys cast, Richard. How do you see that one going?
Away at Northampton. I hope it's a bit more competitive than last year. Last year, they really got a bit overexcited in the quarterfinals, and their discipline fell apart, didn't it? Not just from a kind of old school fouls perspective, but it was the scrum. They completely lost the plot in trying to absolutely mince Northampton, rightly so. But they just couldn't. They just gave away free kick after free kick. I
feel like the cast scrum hasn't been what it has been.
Not quite as no. I think it's
Collier's barely played.
I think it'd still be a bit of a trump card against Northampton. I'd like to think it might be competitive for 60-70. I think Northampton are a little bit too slick at the moment. What I would say is that Cast are there's an unpredictability in a good sense in their back line in terms of like the quality of game breakers. And there are players that I think one-on-one can be as dangerous and explosive as, maybe not to the same high standard all the time, but can certainly match the try scoring exploits of a Freeman and Ram and guys like that. So cast by a point.
I think ultimately discipline and cohesion will be the winner of that.
Will out,
and that therefore Northampton could win by a decent amount. I think it could. That I'm hoping. I think you're right about last year. Like, it ended up being quite a big margin, but it was quite a big margin from about half time, really, wasn't it? And I hope at least it's kind of 60-65 competitive, and then maybe Northampton run away with it. But Yeah, Cast is so inconsistent and so ill
Uh,
disciplined.
we're getting a whole new audience is about to see Buati Karawalevu, and that's all
That
that
is
matters.
exciting. That is exciting. The Petit, hopefully, it's Batita and Karalevu, but then we can double down on that. I think Montpellier, presumably based on their team selection for Toulouse, maybe they're going to target that. So they've got in the Challenge Cup. Although they are playing Perpignan at home. La Rochelle, I imagine, will send a very weak side to Newcastle, given that they will try and be getting back into the Champions Cup. Oh, I don't know. Maybe they will go strong, but I don't think they can afford to with the injuries. Their academy guys are building every time, so they could.
Yeah,
they could do Newcastle. Poe, I think Zebre, as I said, haven't won a URC game in about 15 games or something. So even if we send the kids, which we should do, in my opinion, I think we might still win. Stade Francais should have enough against the Dragons, and I think that's the French team's done in the Challenge Cup. I wonder if Dragons will turn up. But any closing thoughts on Champions Cup stuff?
No, not. I just hope that we see. I think we've seen this round a little bit over the last couple of years. Has been a bit, kind of a little bit of a damp squib at points. But equally, there have been, I think even with the rotations and things we've seen in the new format over the last 2-3 seasons, there have still been standout moments, matches. I'm thinking like the one you went to, Quins in Bordeaux. Like it does still sometimes happen. Like you get these amazing away or shock victories. So I'm going to try and not get too suckered into the doom and gloom of teams being swapped up, and just hope for a belting round.
Plenty of promise in this round, isn't there? I just hope that we get a couple of games, and we have done. You're right. There was the Munster performance at La Rochelle, wasn't there, as well recently? Okay, I will leave you to enjoy your holiday because we're about to run out of time. We're back on the Muggles Zoom. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy Benetton.
It's going to be the pick of the round, pick of the Challenge Cup games. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, nice one.
Nice one.
Au revoir.
Take it easy, Rob. Au revoir.
Okay, thank you very much, merci beaucoup, to Richard for dialing in from his holiday in Italy, northern Italy. Can't believe he's managed to wangle in a trip to Benetton there on Saturday afternoon. I'm really, really jealous of that. That's somewhere I'd love to go. Certainly for a game, could be an absolute cracker that. But I should say, if you are, our bread and butter is French rugby, and if you are going out there, then you might want some recommendations of places to go. I guess for French fans or English fans going out to France, it's pretty much just the two big games in Bordeaux and Toulouse. There's obviously Paris recommendations as well for any Dragons fans. So if you are one of these people, then pay attention, drop us a DM. We are at Rosbeast Rugby on all social media. Or email us at rosbeastrugby@gmail.com if you want to get in touch and find out a bit more. But Toulouse, if you are a Bristol fan going to Toulouse, you can, of course, go to Colomiers on Friday night. They are playing Dax. That would be my number one recommendation, I think. If I was in Bristol for the long weekend, I've not been to Colomiers. I really want to go to Colomiers. They are playing some fantastic rugby in Pro D2. They are second in the league. After a brilliant win last week. We'll come on to that in a bit. And then Toulouse. Yeah, so we always say, if I had to give one recommendation, well, obviously the Marché Victor Hugo is the big one, but that kind of speaks for itself. That's the big market. People generally congregate there on match days anyway. The game is at the football stadium as well, actually. So I would recommend walking along the river to it and kind of seeing a bit. You kind of go along like a canal, possibly not sewage works, but like a canal way, like a relatively industrial bit. But it's quite a nice walk if the weather's nice. I've done it myself when I went to watch TFC, Toulouse FC, when I was out there a few years ago. It's quite a nice walk. There is a couple that side of the river is kind of slightly less populated with stuff we've been to, but I've been to a couple of beer bars that side of the river, or certainly that way. If you're into your craft beer, then again, drop us a DM. I'd say our kind of one general recommendation for Toulouse is Le Dahu, which is not so much because it's the best restaurant in the world, although the set menu is exceptional value and the dauphinoise is unbelievably good. It is. I've been there every time I've had the dauphinoise. I'm like, this is the best potato dauphinoise there is. But more because that's quite a good street for little eateries that have a set menu. There's also a place called the Little Beer Bar on there, which does good craft beers and also has like screens to show live sport. And generally, like if you ask them if they're not showing it, like if the TVs aren't on, just ask them, because that's something I've done to watch Pro D2, to watch the Ryder Cup, to watch all sorts. So they're very accommodating. It's a cute little place with some decent beers, and it is near, kind of right in the mixer, just on the river. And if you get good weather, like there's a couple of places you could pick up beers and just go and sit on the steps by the river. It is, and soak in the atmosphere. It is a lovely thing to do. But check out Colomiers and report back, because we want to hear more about Colomiers and as a ground. But yeah, if you've got any more recommendations, get in touch, or need any more recommendations, or if you're going, we want to hear from you. Bordeaux. So my boys, Leicester Tigers, are travelling to Bordeaux. Bordeaux is a fantastic city. It's not just wine bars and stuff like that. The Marché Victor Hugo is the big recommendation for Toulouse, but Marché de Capucines is I can never decide which one I love more. They're both absolutely brilliant to go and soak up the buzz. Both got a real buzz on match day. Park up, prop yourself up on a bar, get a demi-pression, get a glass of wine, go and have a browse around all the stalls. It's rustic, like they both are. They're pretty rough and ready. Got to be prepared for that. But yeah, Marché de Capucines, get yourself there on match day morning or Saturday morning, with the game Saturday afternoon. Generally, the kind of restaurant, in terms of getting to the ground, like you can walk it, but taxi or tram should be all right. Blacklist is an exceptional place for brunch, but it's very small. I would say that. Check out Chartrons as an area. So it's just kind of slightly further out from the city centre, but that's kind of cute little streets. There's a few places around there. Our general recommendation is Comptoir d'Etienne. I'd book it if you can. Comptoir d'Etienne is a set menu place, but they do some exceptional steak. The wines are really good, and you kind of go into a lot of places in Bordeaux. You kind of go into a cupboard or a wall. You look at a wall, and that is your wine list. They will point towards a wall for your wine list. They don't give you one, so just go and browse if you're into that. And yeah, they'll help you out. But yeah, Comptoir d'Etienne in the centre is one of our favourite places. If you get good weather, try and get to Mama Shelter, bit of a rooftop bar, bit more kind of Big Mama, so it's kind of a bit more modernised and a bit more anglicised, I guess. But it's quite a cool little rooftop bar there as well. Really jealous of the guys going to Stade Chaban-Delmas, one of my favourite stadiums in France, I think. So check out that in Bordeaux. If you are a Dragons fan going to Paris for Stade Francais game, we did on social media literally a few weeks ago, for ahead of Le Crunch, we did a load of recommendations for Paris on X. We did it on Blue Sky. We did it on Threads and Instagram. If you aren't on any of those, then send us an email to rosbeestrugby@gmail.com and we will send you them, or send you a list or whatever. I don't know. But we've both been to Paris quite a bit recently. So on there, you've got restaurant recommendations, you've got wine bar recommendations, coffee recommendations, which is key in Paris because you might pay a lot for something that's not very good, and beer bars as well. I love my craft beer, so I'm always kind of trying to find the best beer places. So that's our recommendations. I'm afraid we have not been to Toulon, but that is the one ground in the top 14 that we have not been to. So if you are a Stormers fan and you're heading out there for this weekend, apologies. I can source you some recommendations if you need it from someone, maybe a player's dad or someone like that. But yeah, we can source you some recommendations if you need them. But yeah, I'm sure you can find your own as well. We don't have a monopoly on recommendation. I think that's all the French teams hosting in the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup. Cannot wait for that weekend. But let's get into some Pro D2. I teed up the fact that Colomiers are in second. Let's get into a bit of a Pro D2 roundup in a sec. Okay, Pro D2. round 24 as it was last week. So last week's pod, we teed up a big kind of set of how the run-in looks and what could happen and the permutations, and Pro Day round 24 proceeded to completely disregard all of those or completely nullify them and throw them all out the window, because plenty of those permutations are now done and dusted. So most notably, Carcassonne at the bottom they had a game at home to Mont-de-Marsan, who were in 14th, and a bit of a relegation 6-pointer, which they unfortunately lost right at the death, and not quite right at the death, but fairly late on. And unfortunately for Carcassonne, they are now 9 points adrift at the bottom, which feels like quite a lot, even with 6 rounds to go, to make up 9 points, given that the team ahead of them is Dax, who have gone pretty well generally, and are actually a better team than that. Nevers are in 14th, 40, so they could get sucked into that. But yeah, unfortunately for Carcassonne, that feels like they've probably consigned to 16th place in the automatic relegation. They've made a decent effort of it. They've made more of an effort of it than Nice did. Well, certainly by this point, Nice had a bit of a rally towards the end of last season, but unfortunately, Carcassonne done and dusted, you would think. But my God, the rest of it, the scrap to avoid that 15th place and that access match against the runner-up in Pro D2, you've got Dax on 40 points, as I said, in 15th. Nevers after another defeat, and they lost away at Van by 50 odd, but that was actually better than it could have been. That could have been 100 on another night. Nevers on 40 and 14th. Mont-de-Marsan stand on to 41 points. Béziers 42 points. Biarritz 43 points. Possibly still possible to get sucked into it now. Soyo-Angoulême on 45 points in 10th. So Soyo-Angoulême lost at home to Brive. Bit of a weird looking team selection, I'd say, from Soyo-Angoulême. It didn't look quite at their strongest. And Brive actually ended up running out with a bonus point victory. So only 3 solitary penalties for Soyo-Angoulême in that first half. A pointless second half for Saxe v. Paul Burgess was at 10, the youngster who I'm a big fan of. But yeah, I think Brive are kind of clicking into gear now a little bit. Didn't necessarily look like it was kind of all full noise and not quite as littered with out and out stardust as it can do, but it's a pretty strong looking side. When you got Laws, Henko Venter, Shilcock seems to be finding some really good form, which is great to see, because we big fans of him. We teed him up at the start of the season as potentially one of the best signings of the league. He is now finding some form, which is fantastic to see. And Soyo-Angoulême, that is, we were looking at, could they with a bit of a run at the end of the season mount a charge on the barrage? Well, they're now 17 points off the barrage, so probably not, is the answer. And now they are looking over their shoulder with only 5 points clear of 15th and 14th for that matter. And they haven't shown much generally in terms of point scoring in the way that they did last year. They really haven't hit the heights of last season. Brive, on the other hand, great result for them, and they actually go up into 5th. I hadn't quite realised how close they were to Oyonnax. But I thought Brive were kind of 6th and only going to be 6th. They're actually 3 points behind Valence-le-Mans, so there's still a chance that Brive could get a home barrage game. I think the 12 points to make up on Colomiers to get into the semi-finals is a bit much to ask, but Brive suddenly, after a couple of good wins, both on the road in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of rounds, and obviously not the last couple of weeks because there was a massive break, but win away at Colomiers, win away at Soyo-Angoulême, puts them right in the mix for the barrage. Oyonnax, I mentioned there, lost away in a little bit of a derby, not quite a derby. They lost away at Valence-le-Mans. That's a good result for Valence-le-Mans. I feel like they were fading a little bit, and I think they overtook, or they were level on points with Oyonnax, I think, ahead of that one. So they now solidify their place in 4th, which is great for them. Again, reiterate, they play a lot of the other teams around them at home. So that's quite that's a big win for Valence Romans. Oyonnax, I thought they would offer a bit more. I thought they'd be a bit closer. I actually thought they might win that one. They need to kind of start. Well, they're on a little bit of a dip there themselves. Agen lost away at Béziers. So a big win for Béziers, or crucial win for Béziers, especially given that everyone else around them did pretty well. But Agen did lose away to Béziers, didn't pick up any points. They are now 5 points behind Oyonnax. It is in 6th. So they're 5 points off the barrage. I wouldn't rule out Agen's surge to the or shot at the barrage at all yet. I think 5 points is not much, especially with 6 games to go. But we can rule out, I think, Aurillac and Grenoble, who were below them, who both lost last week. We'll come on to Aurillac in a bit, but Grenoble lost 50 points to 26 away at Dax. Dax clearly, despite the fact they are in 15th place, clearly still a better team than the teams around them if they're going and beating Grenoble at home by that much. Grenoble sent a little bit of a weird looking side. I thought they might target it a bit more, but they still had plenty of their key men. You'd say now that they are done and dusted for a shot at the barrage, which is a bit of a kind of sums up their season. It's really underwhelming, but they are 13 points behind Oyonnax. They're 6 behind Agen, who are in 7th. So yeah, they're actually nearer 15th than they are the barrage, which is the case for kind of all those teams. Aurillac, so top of kind of a riser, really good result in that. I think they're the only game I haven't really touched on. I mentioned of their lost away at Van. That was completely expected. Aurillac with the other team that with an outside shot at the barrage, but they lost at home to Biarritz, and that is Aurillac have actually lost 4 games at home this season. So Aurillac possibly not as tough as it normally is to go these days, but they'll be relatively happy with their position in the league. Biarritz, really, really good away win for them. That was by 3 points at the death, 27-24. Yeah, a relatively late penalty for Edgar Retier to make it 27-24, about last 5 minutes. Biarritz with their second away win only of the season. That puts them, had they not won that, or had that been a draw, they would be, really in the mix. They're kind of, to be 3 points ahead of Nevers and Dax is pretty key. But the incident that came out of this was there was a journalist reporting for, I think they are, what are they called? France Bleu, or kind of Ici Pays Basque. So a journalist reporting for Biarritz at the Aurillac game got assaulted by an Aurillac fan. Now, ironically, the reporter is a guy called Thomas Palmier, who is the brother of Grenoble fly half Marc Palmier, who played until a couple of seasons ago at Aurillac. Both Marc and Thomas are from Aurillac. But while he was reporting on the game and talking about the kind of the end of the game and the kick and the fact that Aurillac had lost, someone came up and hit him in the face and knocked him over. And there is audio, and he says in French, "You're going to hit me. You're going to hit me." And the fan does. I think the fan kind of got escorted out. Don't think it's related to Marc Palmier leaving Aurillac, but there we go. Just a bizarre story to have a fan attacking. Well, we saw a coach push a TV journalist in Jeff Parling pushing Craig Doyle at the weekend on TNT Sports, but that feels pretty weird for a fan to go up and assault or attack a journalist. So pretty unsavoury scenes at Aurillac. Expect better from the boys from the LAC and the fans from the LAC. I think someone referred to them as a so-called supporter. It is the kind of thing like, who are you to kind of go to a game and do that? I've just realised the game I didn't touch on was the game that was an FR UK, which was third hosting second, and there was an excellent win for Colomiers, who have now retained their place in second. they could have been overtaken by Provence, but they ran out to an early lead in the first half, playing some brilliant rugby, as they tend to. They ran out to 22 points to 3 up after 21 minutes. But the back end of the game, so Rich caught a bit of this, and like feels like Provence had a really good shot at winning it. It didn't look quite like the full strongest Provence side, but they had a good shot of winning it. And after a pretty, explosive first half, they showed a bit of a dog, showed enough up front to hold out. So very dogged performance from Colomiers, which bodes well to go and do that away. And they have been excellent away from home all season. But to go and do it against a big pack like Provence, big physical side, bodes really, really well for their promotion push and their credentials going into the knockouts. But it looks like, certainly getting a straight into the home semis is in their hands. They are 5 points ahead of third now, which is really good news for them with 6 points to go. 6 games to go, sorry. Provence still in third. There was a little bit of a gap to Valence Romance before that game, but one that got away for Provence. They should be winning that, but fair play to Colomiers. That was on FRUK on YouTube for free. And then let's get into a bit of a preview of round 25 of Pro D2. Wow. So, round 25 of Pro D2 kicks off on Thursday with Grenoble hosting Valence Romance, which should be a really good game. Grenoble, unfortunately, as I just said, the kind of promotion push has gone largely, but this is a derby game. If you look at a map, this is much more of a derby game than it annoys me that Grenoble seem to get Oyonnax in the derby game. Oyonnax is much nearer to Nevers. Well, no, sorry. Grenoble is nearer to Valence Romance, and Oyonnax could easily go to Nevers because they're both out in the sticks. So it's a proper derby. I know the Valence Romance fans will travel in pretty good numbers. Whether they can pick up an away win, that would be pretty crucial. It should be two teams well matched as well in terms of decent forward packs. Should be some pretty good rugby being played in that from two expansive backlines. I wonder whether you hope that Valence Romance will go strong. They've got Colomiers at home the following week, and then they go away to Nevers the week after that, and obviously had a pretty big game at home with Oyonnax last week. They've got a small squad, and whether they rotate that a little bit and this is the game they choose to rotate, I don't know. They may see it as a chance to pick up a win, given that Grenoble haven't really picked up any sort of form. Fascinating to see the team selections. There will be a preview article for All Things Rugby on the All Things Rugby website or on the Rugby app. We will be doing a preview of that game once the team news comes out, which should be revealing. But yeah, fascinating game, that one. Other ones that catch the eye, I'd say Agen hosting Vannes. Tough one for Agen. They probably need to win that to have any hope of getting a spot in the barrage. Vannes, as we know, going pretty well wherever they play. They've got such a strong squad. Agen can win that. That's not a done deal, but it will be a tough ask for them to host Vannes. The big game, I'd say, big game at the bottom, actually, sorry. Nevers hosting Béziers. So Nevers are now below Béziers after Béziers beat Agen and Nevers lost away at Vannes. Nevers still haven't won a game in 2026 or since Christmas. They really, really, really need to be winning that. If they don't win that, they are properly in trouble, because that would pull Béziers kind of fairly clear, and that would be Nevers haven't won a game in the last 9. That's absolute madness. They really need to be winning that. The other, as I mentioned, Colomiers Dax. If you're in Toulouse to watch the Bristol game, that should definitely be go. Dax might not go that particularly strong. They've got Saint-Guelain the following week, and then they've got their derby, proper derby away at Mont-de-Marsan the week after that. So there might be a little bit of rotation from Dax, but should be a cracking atmosphere. Saint-Guelain at home to Carcassonne. They should be looking to pick up a win there. Again, if they lose that, then they're probably in the mire. Two teams, I'd say Saint-Guelain. That should pull them then clear of relegation, hopefully. Mont-de-Marsan hosting Aurillac. Aurillac need to bounce back a little bit, although they're kind of safe and all that, and they'll want to finish as high up the league as possible. Mont-de-Marsan, great chance for them to go 2 on the spin and kind of get ahead of possibly Nevers or Dax or Béziers and whoever else is down there. Biarritz possibly as well. The big game Friday night, though, Brive hosting Provence. That is a huge game. 2 massive budget sides, 2 massive packs going head to head. Plenty of international quality, guys that have been capped internationally. Some seriously, that's a proper game. I would love to watch that. Shame it kind of clashes with some of the Champions Cup and Challenge Cup stuff. But that's a huge game. Brive, if Brive win that, they're looking really good. Like they could go 4th with a win there, and they would only be a couple of points, 2 or 3 points behind Provence, depending on how the results go. Provence kind of, that would be a good win for them to get on the road. But if Brive win that, then they're really in the reckoning all of a sudden. Having won 3 on the spin, that would be 4 wins in spin. Provence, on the other hand, I've only just spotted, are actually 4 defeats in a row. So they've that would be a really bad sign for Provence. It looked like they were going to challenge for the top 2. I kind of tipped them to get into the top 14. I have a good shot at top 14. But we will see. That'll be a fascinating round. You can guarantee that something weird will happen. There's going to be some bizarre result somewhere in that's going to throw up all sorts of weird things. That is us done for the week. As I said, no petty fours. If you've got any questions about anything, get in touch with us at rugby at gmail.com or on social media. Subscribe to us on YouTube. There'll be some more Pro Day previews and maybe a few other previews on YouTube. I try and get some stuff out nearer the end of the week when some of the teams have been announced and stuff like that. But hopefully there'll be a preview of round 25 of Pro Day 2, and also I'll try and do some Challenge Cup stuff. If you want any more, drop us an email, drop us a DM and ask nicely, and I might try and carve out some time. But thank you very much to Rich for joining from his holiday. He is off to the Challenge Cup this weekend of Benetton hosting Cardiff. That's going to be fun because Challenge Cup, long Easter weekend. Cannot wait to sit down over the weekend and probably not catch any of it because I'm having to catch up with family and stuff like that. But never the worst thing. Love these weekends. Last 16 quarterfinals. Enjoy. We will be back next week. Both of us, hopefully in the UK, hopefully back to normal. Had some issues with the sound recently. Thank you for your patience with that. We are trying to sort that out. But until then, enjoy the weekend's rugby. Au revoir.
C'est la